Okay, so today we're diving into someone pretty much everyone has heard of, Elon Musk. A name that's, well, basically synonymous now with pushing boundaries in cars, energy, space, you name it.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got Tesla shaking up the auto industry, SpaceX aiming for Mars. His projects really capture the imagination, don't they?
They really do. So, our mission here is to kind of peel back the layers, get past the headlines, and really understand what makes him tick, what's driven this journey, and what his actual impact is.
Yeah, exactly. For you listening, if you're curious but maybe don't have time to wade through, everything written about him, we want this to be your shortcut. The key stuff, the important connections.
We've tried to boil it down, give you the core insights without getting totally bogged down in every single detail.
Precisely. Let's get straight to the point, find those aha moments.
All right, let's start at the beginning then. Where else? June 28th, 1971, Pretoria, South Africa.
That's right. His dad was an electromechanical engineer, his mom a model and dietitian. On the surface, maybe comfortable, but there were complexities. His parents split up, for instance.
And that early life, you think that shaped him significantly, that independence?
I think it definitely contributed. When you see this independent streak pretty early on, especially with technology. He got his first computer at just 10 years old.
10, and taught himself programming.
Uh-huh. And it wasn't just a hobby. By 12, he had actually created and sold his first video game. It was called Blastar.
12 years old, selling software.
Yeah.
That's, well, that's more than just fiddling around, isn't it? It shows something else.
Absolutely. Blaster itself was simple, a space game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it points to that technical skill
Mm.
and an early kind of entrepreneurial drive. And interestingly, he was also reading a lot back then.
Right, the science fiction stuff. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Isaac Asimov. It's almost uncanny how it foreshadows his later obsessions.
It really is. You look at those books, and there's this recurring theme, isn't there? Humanity facing huge, sometimes existential problems.
And solving them with technology.
Exactly. Tackling the big stuff. That seems to have really stuck with him, shaping that mindset we see today. But school wasn't all smooth sailing. He actually got bullied quite a bit.
Really. And that experience, did it crush him or did it fuel something?
It seems like it became another motivator, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe fueled this determination to, prove himself through achievement, through success.
So that feeling of being an outsider, it kind of solidified this intense desire to make a mark, to achieve something significant.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And that ambition quickly led him to look beyond South Africa for bigger opportunities.
So at 17, he makes the move, heads off, aiming for the U.S. eventually, but starts in Canada first, right? At Queen's University in Ontario.
That's right. Spent a couple of years there, then transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, and that's where he really buckled down academically.
Dual degrees, wasn't it? Economics and physics, that's quite a combination.
It is, and you can see how that blend, the business side and the science side, might give you a pretty potent toolkit for disrupting industries later on.
And Penn is where the first big entrepreneurial venture takes off, Zip2.
Ah, yes, Zip2. Online maps, business directories for newspapers. Sounds almost quaint now, doesn't it?
A bit. But back then, newspapers were just figuring out the whole internet thing. It was actually quite innovative.
It really was. It addressed a real need. And the success of Zip2 wasn't just about the eventual payout, though that was significant.
Yeah, selling to Compaq for nearly $300 million. That's a huge first win.
Huge. But beyond the money, it was validation. Proof that he could spot a tech shift and actually build a successful business around it. A pattern was emerging.
And true to form, he doesn't exactly kick back and relax after that payday. He plows that money straight into the next idea, X.com.
Right, 1999. And this time he's jumping into online payments, which back then felt, pretty risky to a lot of people.
Definitely. Security concerns, reliability. People weren't entirely comfortable sending money over the internet yet.
But Musk saw the potential, didn't he? The way the internet could just revolutionize finance, make it faster, easier. He had that vision early on.
And X.com merges with a competitor, Confinity.
In 2000, Confinity was co-founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin, and that combined entity, that becomes PayPal.
And PayPal just explodes, doesn't it? It becomes the way to do online payments securely and easily.
It really did. Its growth just proved Musk's vision, right, about digital commerce. It became essential infrastructure for the growing online economy.
Which leads to another massive exit. eBay buys PayPal in 2002 for $1.5 billion in stock.
Yeah, another huge success. Makes him a multimillionaire many times over.
But again, history repeats itself. No resting on laurels. He's already thinking about the next big thing. And this time, it's literally out of this world.
Right. His focus shifts dramatically. That long-held fascination with space, with making humanity multiplanetary, it comes right to the forefront. He found SpaceX in 2002.
The sheer audacity of that, though. The space industry was, it was NASA, government agencies, huge established players.
Totally dominated by them. Decades of history, massive budgets. The common thinking was just, private companies can't do this. It's too complex, too expensive.
And SpaceX's early days seemed to prove the doubters right, didn't they? Those first launches.
Oh, absolutely. The first 3 launches of their Falcon 1 rocket all failed. Disaster after disaster.
Imagine the pressure. The money burning, near bankruptcy must have felt very, very real.
It was incredibly high stakes, a genuine risk of total failure. But then came the 4th launch, September 2008.
And that one worked. Falcon 1 reached orbit.
It worked. A massive turning point. It proved SpaceX could do it. It really marked the beginning of a new era in private spaceflight.
And from there, the milestones just kept coming. First private company to dock with the International Space Station with the Dragon capsule in 2012. That was huge.
Monumental. And then, maybe even more significantly in the long run, successfully landing the first stage of the Falcon 9 rocket back on Earth in 2015.
That reusable rocket tech, that felt like science fiction becoming reality.
It really did. Think about the complex guidance, the engine control needed for that controlled descent and landing. Incredibly difficult stuff. And that breakthrough is absolutely central to Musk's main goal for SpaceX.
Which is Mars, making life multiplanetary.
Exactly. His whole rationale is about the long-term survival of humanity. Having a second home, essentially as a backup against anything catastrophic happening here on Earth.
And the key to making Mars feasible financially and logistically is reusability, bringing down the cost of getting stuff and eventually people into space.
That's the core strategy. If you can reuse the expensive parts of the rocket, you drastically cut the cost per launch. That's what makes the idea of transporting enough resources and people to Mars to build a settlement even remotely plausible.
Okay, so while he's literally aiming for the stars back here on Earth, he gets involved in another industry ripe for disruption. Cars. Yeah. He joins Tesla Motors in 2004.
Yeah, initially as an investor and chairman. But fairly quickly, as the company hit financial turbulence, he stepped into more active leadership roles, CEO, product architect.
And at that time, what was the general view of electric cars?
Mostly seen as, well, a bit quirky. Niche products, often kind of slow, limited range, maybe not the best looking.
Yeah.
The perception was they just couldn't really compete with gasoline cars.
Like glorified golf carts, maybe?
Something like that for many models, yeah. But Musk saw something totally different. He didn't see compromise. He saw potential for high performance, great style, a genuine alternative.
And the Tesla Roadster, launched in 2008, was the first big statement, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Here was an electric car that was fast, looked amazing, and crucially had a decent range over 200 miles using those lithium-ion batteries. It completely flipped the script on what an EV could be.
It showed electric could be desirable, not just sensible.
Exactly. It used that advanced battery tech, high energy density, rechargeable, and a really compelling package. It was expensive, sure, a luxury item, but it proved the concept.
But Tesla, like SpaceX, had its near-death experiences financially, right?
Oh, definitely. There were multiple times it came incredibly close to going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Musk poured his own fortune in, kept pushing. His commitment was intense. People talk about him sleeping on the factory floor during production ramps.
And that commitment eventually leads to the Model S in 2012, the luxury sedan.
The Model S was huge. It wasn't just a good electric car. It was arguably one of the best cars, period, on the market at the time. Performance, tech. It really put the legacy automakers on notice.
And then expanding the lineup, the Model X SUV, and then the big one, the Model 3 for the mass market.
The Model 3 was the real gamble for scale.
Mm.
And it paid off. It became the world's best-selling EV, really driving that transition. And look at Tesla now, one of the most valuable car companies on the planet.
It's staggering, outstripping companies that have been around for a century.
And it highlights that Musk's vision for Tesla was always broader than just cars, right? It was about sustainable energy.
Right, which brings in Solar City. He didn't found it, but Tesla acquired it in 2016.
Exactly. Solar panels, solar roof tiles. The idea is to create this whole integrated system. Generate renewable energy with solar, store it in Tesla batteries, use it to power your home and charge your Tesla car.
A whole energy ecosystem moving away from fossil fuels, stabilizing the grid, too.
That's the big picture vision.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got space, we've got cars and energy. What about traffic?
Ah, yes. The famous 2016 tweet about LA traffic driving him nuts, which leads to the Boring Company.
It started almost as a joke, maybe, but quickly became a real venture.
The idea being tunnels.
Underground tunnels, yeah.
Yeah.
But for high-speed transport, electric pods, or even just cars on electric skates, zipping along under cities at speeds up to, say, 150 miles per hour, bypassing all the gridlock up top.
Sounds pretty futuristic. Has it worked out as planned so far?
Well, the first big project, the Loop system under the Las Vegas Convention Center, is operational, and there are plans for expansions. But like his other ventures, it's faced challenges. Permitting, skepticism, the technical hurdles of digging tunnels cheaply and quickly.
Because that's the real innovation they're aiming for, isn't it? Not just tunnels, but making tunnel construction way cheaper and faster.
Exactly. Developing faster, more efficient tunnel boring machines. If they can crack that, it could genuinely make underground transit networks much more feasible for cities everywhere.
And who can forget the fundraising? Selling not a flamethrower. Flamethrowers.
Yeah, that was certainly unconventional. Got a lot of buzz, raised some cash. Classic Musk move, maybe. But yeah, Boring Company, still early days, but the potential impact on urban transport is significant if they pull it off.
Okay, and then there's perhaps the most sci-fi sounding venture of them all, Neuralink, found in 2016.
Neuralink, yeah, diving into neurotechnology.
Yeah.
Developing brain-machine interfaces, or BMIs.
Okay, break that down. BMI, what is that in simple terms?
Basically a direct link, a communication pathway between the brain and an external device like a computer chip.
Wow. And the initial goal is medical?
Primarily, yes. The first focus is on helping people with severe neurological conditions. Things like paralysis due to spinal cord injury, maybe blindness, deafness, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, using the BMI to restore function.
That alone would be incredible. But Musk has talked about a much bigger, longer-term vision, hasn't he?
He has. And this gets into more speculative territory. The idea of potentially enhancing human cognition, merging in some way with artificial intelligence.
Why? What's the thinking there?
It partly stems from his concerns about AI becoming superintelligent and potentially surpassing humans. The idea is maybe a high-bandwidth brain interface could allow humans to keep pace to ensure AI remains aligned with human interests.
That's a lot to unpack. Where are they with the technology now?
They've made progress. They unveiled early prototypes, showed demonstrations with animals, famously a pig named Gertrude with an implant transmitting brain signals, and later a monkey playing Pong with its mind. The goal is a safe, minimally invasive device. First for medical use then. Well, we'll see.
So if you step back from all these individual companies, SpaceX, Tesla, Boring, Neuralink, you start to see a pattern, right? An interconnected vision for the future.
Definitely. It's not just random bets in different sectors. There's an underlying philosophy, a profound belief in technology's power to reshape our future, driven by some core goals.
Like sustainability.
Absolutely. Ending our reliance on fossil fuels. That's the thread connecting Tesla's cars and batteries with SolarCity's solar power, moving towards a renewable energy economy.
And the other huge one, making humanity multiplanetary. That's SpaceX's whole reason for being, essentially.
Right. It's about long-term survival insurance for the species, establishing a self-sustaining presence elsewhere, starting with Mars. That means not just flags and footprints, but a real city, a colony. The Starship rocket is being designed specifically for that large-scale transport job.
And the vision doesn't necessarily stop at Mars, does it?
No, he's talked about ambitions beyond Mars space stations, utilizing asteroid resources, maybe exploring the moons of Jupiter and Saturn eventually. It's expansive.
And then back on Earth, you've got the Boring Company trying to fix traffic with those high-speed underground tunnels.
Addressing a very tangible, everyday frustration for millions, potentially transforming how cities function.
And Neuralink sits at this fascinating intersection of health and human potential, maybe even redefining what it means to be human in an age of AI.
Yeah, tackling disease, potentially enhancing our capabilities, and navigating our relationship with artificial intelligence. It's incredibly ambitious stuff across the board.
But let's be real, it hasn't all been smooth sailing and cheering crowds. He's faced enormous challenges and a lot of criticism.
Oh, absolutely. Skepticism has followed him every step of the way. Remember how many people thought Tesla was doomed to fail? Repeatedly.
Constantly. Production delays, production hell, as he called it. Quality control issues sometimes, financial instability, those near bankruptcy moments we mentioned.
His personal commitment was often what pulled things through, pouring his own money in, working relentless hours, that intense drive.
And he's often courted controversy himself, hasn't he? Especially with his very active social media presence.
Yeah, his outspokenness on platforms like Twitter, now X, has certainly landed him in hot water. The whole funding secured tweet about taking Tesla private at $420.
That led to serious trouble with the SEC, didn't it? Fines, having to step down as chairman for a while.
It did. Big repercussions. And his management style gets talked about a lot, too.
The micromanager label comes up. Very high expectations, pushing people incredibly hard.
Yeah, creating what sounds like a very demanding, high-pressure work culture at both Tesla and SpaceX. You hear both positive stories about the mission-driven intensity and negative ones about burnout.
But through all that, the setbacks, the controversies, the doubters, what stands out is his resilience, right? That determination and willingness to take massive risks.
Absolutely. You can critique aspects of his approach, but you can't deny that resilience and risk appetite have been fundamental to achieving what he has achieved. Pushing boundaries requires that kind of conviction.
So, looking at the big picture now, where does he stand? What's his legacy shaping up to be?
Well, he's undeniably one of the most influential figures of the 21st century so far. Love him or hate him, his impact is huge, and also one of the most controversial, for sure.
He's fundamentally reshaped multiple industries. Electric vehicles wouldn't be where they are without Tesla. Private space travel wouldn't be where it is without SpaceX. He's accelerated change.
Definitely. And pushed renewable energy further into the mainstream. I think his legacy will be tied to that relentless drive for a technologically transformed future, that passion for innovation, for tackling huge problems.
He's challenged the status quo time and again, and whether people agree with his methods or not, he's inspired countless engineers, entrepreneurs, thinkers.
He really has. He's made people believe, or at least consider, possibilities that seemed out of reach. And he's still going, still pushing towards those incredibly ambitious goals. His impact on human progress, whatever the final tally, will be significant and lasting.
So quite a journey we've covered there. From selling video games in South Africa to launching rockets and building global companies, Elon Musk is without doubt a fascinating and transformative figure.
Absolutely. A complex one for sure.
Okay, so as we wrap up, here's something to mull over. Thinking about everything we've discussed, SpaceX and Mars, Tesla and sustainable energy, Neuralink and brain interfaces, the Boring Company and tunnels, which one of these current ventures do you personally think holds the most potential to radically change humanity for better or for worse over the next, say, 50 years? And what makes you lean that way? Something to think about.
A great question to ponder.
Indeed. Well, that's our deep dive for today. Until next time, keep exploring.